In the history of Formula One, the definition of speed is constantly evolving, but there are years when the laws of physics seem to be rewritten. 2004 was such a year, marking the final symphony of V10 engines and the pinnacle of aerodynamics. When the 2003 season ended, Michael Schumacher had barely scraped the championship by 2 points, and everyone thought Williams and McLaren would dethrone Ferrari in 2004. However, the whispers coming from Italy during winter testing were terrifying. The new F2004 car was so fast that engineers thought the stopwatches were broken. As the season began, rivals wanted to believe it was a bluff, but a monster had awakened in Maranello, and this machine was designed not just to win races, but to break its rivals' will to compete. When the first lights of the season turned green in Melbourne, the story of the entire year seemed already written. The half-second gap Ferrari opened up to their rivals in qualifying on Saturday sent a chill through the paddock. On Sunday, that gap turned into a chasm. As Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello cruised to an easy 1-2 finish as if racing in a different category, Alonso and Montoya behind could only watch the receding red dots. This was not a race. It was a demonstration of power by Maranello, and the look of hope on the rivals' faces was replaced by deep despair from the very first race. Those hoping Australia might be an exception accepted the bitter truth in the stifling heat of Malaysia and the desert sands of Bahrain. Even the threat of rain at Sepang couldn't disrupt Ferrari's pace. And at the newly added Bahrain circuit, the F2004 gave no chance to either sandstorms or rivals. At the end of the first 3 races, the scoreboard read 3-0, and while Michael Schumacher was off to the best start of his career, his rivals had already begun fighting for second place early in the season. When the heart of Formula One returned to Europe, to Ferrari's home in Imola, the enthusiasm of the Tifosi in the stands was a sight to behold. But this time, there was someone to challenge them: Jenson Button and Bar Honda. Jenson threatened Ferrari on their home turf by taking a surprise pole position at Imola, but Michael's race pace and strategic intelligence prevailed once again. The script didn't change in Spain either. While Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello completed the podium, the top step was occupied by that familiar name, Michael Schumacher, who left Spain with 5 wins out of 5. In a flawless season, the streets of Monaco became the place where everything turned upside down. This was the only place where Ferrari's armor of invincibility was pierced. It was clear things would change when Jarno Trulli drove the lap of his life with Renault to take pole position, but no one could have predicted Michael's retirement would be so bizarre. That strange contact with Montoya in the darkness of the tunnel during the safety car period ended Schumacher's streak, while Jarno Trulli wrote the most emotional story of the 2004 season by achieving his first and only career victory. After the accident in Monaco, everyone wondered if Ferrari's morale was broken, but Michael's answer was ruthless. He crushed his rivals at his home race in Nürburgring, then continued his dominance on the journey across the ocean to Canada and the USA. The victory in Canada, which came after the disqualification of Williams and Toyota cars, might have been controversial, but the win at the USGP in Indianapolis, overshadowed by Ralf Schumacher's horrific crash, proved once again that Michael's ability to focus was superhuman. By mid-season, the Magny-Cours circuit set the stage for one of history's greatest tactical battles. Fernando Alonso and Renault were very strong on home soil, and overtaking on track was impossible. The Ferrari technical team and Ross Brawn reversed this seemingly hopeless situation with an unheard-of, for pit stop strategy. Michael Schumacher drove most of the race at qualifying pace, erasing the time loss of the extra pit stop and passing Alonso in the pits, showing that he was invincible not just with speed, but with intelligence. The summer months turned into a victory march for Michael Schumacher. His triumph at Silverstone against Kimi Raikkonen's resurgent McLaren showed that Ferrari was the best in all conditions. Winning the duel with Button at his home in Hockenheim, Michael delivered a performance in Hungary that sealed Ferrari's absolute dominance that season. With the 1-2 finish in Hungary, Ferrari declared the Constructors' Championship as early as August, while their rivals had already started thinking about the 2005 season. And the expected moment arrived at the Cathedral of Motorsport, Spa-Francorchamps. Michael needed only a few points to seal the championship. The race was chaotic, filled with safety cars and crashes. While Kimi Raikkonen brought McLaren their first and only victory of the season with an incredible drive, Michael Schumacher crossed the checkered flag in second place with a smart drive. He hadn't won the race, but he had won the war. Celebrating his 7th world championship on the podium, he planted his flag on a peak that seemed unreachable in Formula One history. Even with the championship in the bag, the season wasn't considered over for Ferrari until Monza. The Tifosi filled the stands to embrace their champions. In a race that started on a wet track, Rubens Barrichello's tire gamble and Michael's recovery after spinning and dropping back were breathtaking. At the end of the day, when Barrichello and Schumacher stepped onto the Monza podium with a 1-2 finish, it wasn't just a celebration on the red-painted track, but almost a ritual. Ferrari had given their fans the greatest gift in their own temple. When Formula One went to China for the first time, Michael Schumacher endured perhaps the worst weekend of his career. Mistakes in qualifying, in the pit lane, and during the race reminded everyone that even he could falter under pressure, finishing 12th. But in Japan, with qualifying postponed to Sunday morning due to a typhoon approaching Suzuka, the Rainmaster returned. Taking pole position and winning the race on the same day, Schumacher achieved his 13th victory of the season, breaking the record for most wins in a single season and silencing the doubters once again. When the season finale took place at Interlagos, a sense of farewell pervaded the paddock. Juan Pablo Montoya claimed victory in his last race with Williams, displaying a great battle with Kimi Raikkonen. Ferrari didn't win this time but was on the podium. When the checkered flag waved, not only did the 2004 season end, but it also marked the conclusion of the pure, wild era of V10 engines and Ferrari's absolute dominance. This was the end of the Red Storm, a year where statistics became meaningless, speed met perfection, and such clear superiority would never be witnessed again.